Hello everyone, and welcome to my review for Kengan Omega Chapter 114. Before I get into this week's review, I of course have to mention my subscriber goal for 2021 hitting 5,000 by the end of the year. So if you're already a fan of the channel and you're not subscribed, you might as well time to reach that goal. The other thing is my Patreon if you want to help support me and the channel directly, while also getting access to reviews for The Boxer and solo leveling. You can always become a patron, and there's a link to my Patreon down in the description. With that out of the way, let's get on with the review. The fight is still going on, and it's really good still. I think with this chapter, I can say that this is the new best fight in the tournament. It only took 8 fucking rounds, but we finally got a fight better than Rahito versus Falcon. This may change if the next chapter just totally shits the bed, but at the rate it's going at, this is the best fight in the tournament so far. And we'll see what happens afterwards. Maybe one of the rounds that comes after, only 3 left, but maybe one of them will be better than this. But so far, I think this takes the top spot. The back and forth between Liu and Nitoku is really good. At least in the last 2 chapters, it hasn't felt like one single person has been completely dominating the fight. Even though Nitoku was sort of ahead for the first part, Liu would take back the lead for a little bit. Then in the last chapter, Liu really took over the fight. In this chapter, we have Nitoku sort of taking the lead again, this time using what is probably the strongest part of his sambo, that being the hard submissions. As some people had mentioned in previous chapters, not in the chapters, but in the comments, one of the biggest parts of Sambo, one of the parts that makes it so effective, is hard submissions, the ground submissions, and the fact that Nitoku was seemingly not able to do those because of purgatory rules was a massive hindrance. Like, there was just a huge nerf to his power, so in some people's minds, if Liu won, it would have been against a Nitoku who wasn't able to go all out. But as we see here, he can actually go out. The way the ground rules work in Purgatory is kind of weird, but it seems like the way you can do grappling in ground game is if you take the opponent to the ground. You can't throw someone to the ground and then start doing ground game after the fact. Seems like it has to be part of a single move. You can't do it after getting a knockdown on someone, like knocking them out or something. It seems to be something like this, I guess. So, while this is going on, Nitoku reflects on his past, and we finally get that Nitoku backstory. That was the main reason I was a bit skeptical last week about the fight ending this chapter, was that we hadn't gotten Nitoku's flashback yet. We get that for every fighter, basically, in their fights. Both fighters get a flashback of some kind. Okoye didn't get one. But I guess Okoye has been basically a main character. Well, not a main character, but he's been important to the plot before this tournament, so he didn't really need one. And Nicholas was kind of a mysterious figure, so he ended up getting like 3 chapters of backstory stuff. So Nitoku has a pretty interesting origin, in that he had always wanted to become an author, which we know, but his real talent was his physical abilities. He was gifted with an extremely athletic body, and as a result, everyone wanted him for his physical skills. Colleges wanted to recruit him for sports teams, like track and field stuff, and even when he tried to join the Authors Club at one of the colleges he was at, they turned him down. So it seemed like the entire world was telling Nitoku not to pursue what he actually wanted to do, and instead forced him to pursue something that he would be better at. It's kind of funny because, as we know, Nitoku is not a very good author. As much as he wants to be a successful author, he just really doesn't have the talent for it, and instead his talent is in fighting. So, out of, like, kind of spite for the world, he goes to Russia, he learns Sambo, and then becomes a professional martial artist fighting in underground organizations like Kengan. And he does this kind of out of spite for the universe, forcing him to have, like, this very gifted body. where he's like, fine, if you're not going to let me pursue what I want to do, then I am going to fucking dominate this shit. And then he fought Agito and lost. And we actually see the state Nitoku was in by the end of their fight. It was said that he pushed Agito to the brink, but it seems like to the brink is not even, seemingly not even to the same level that Okubo pushed him to. Now this was a pre-Okubo Agito, so he may not have been as strong, but Nitoku really had the shit kicked out of him. But the interesting thing was that Nitoku realized that he actually liked fighting, which is nice. This kind of reminds me a little bit of Yamashita's monologue at the end of the championship match in the Annihilation tournament, where he talks about how everyone has a dream, but almost everyone gives up on that dream partway through the journey. And one of the reasons for that is, you know, just they don't have the body or the talents to fulfill that dream. And that's kind of what happened to Nitoku. He wanted to become a successful author, but the thing he was really talented in was athletics and fighting. So that was what he ended up doing, and it turned out that, like, he's fairly successful when it comes to that. So that's just kind of a neat thing. I really like Nitoku, I really like Liu. This is another thing that makes a really good fight, is when you like both of the characters, and you can root for either of them. I won't mind if Nitoku wins, I prefer if Liu wins, but with how well this fight has been going, and how good of a character Nitoku and Liu are, I don't care if it goes either way, to be totally honest. I can be satisfied either way, depending on how it ends. By the way, an interesting detail that Shadow King has mentioned is that Nitoku pulled off that armbar while half-conscious, which is very impressive, holy shit. Now, Nitoku has acknowledged that Liu is on this quest for vengeance, which is kind of similar to how Nitoku was very spiteful against the world when he first became a martial artist. And he understands that things will only work out for Liu from here if he wins his fight. Otherwise, he'll go crazy and be consumed by his vengeance. However, of course, you gotta get that win for Kengan. As much as Nitoku may want what's best for Liu, he's gotta get that win for the Kengan Association. So he's still gonna go for it. Now, Liu, oh, his arm is fucking wrecked. I think Nitoku dislocates his shoulder or something, and then either because Liu is struggling, Nitoku breaks his arm, or in order to get out of the armbar, Liu intentionally breaks his arm. That's really cool for either of them, depending on how that worked out, but then he goes in for Fajin. And the chapter ends on that. We don't even see the hit connect at the end of the chapter, so big cliffhanger. In theory, this punch really should not have a lot of force behind it because he's punching from on the ground. So it probably would not be as strong as a normal hit would be, but who knows? It's fucking Kengan. We have characters do that all the time. I'm sure they can just come up with some explanation. Oh, one of Liu's 8 Chinese martial arts. Wait, no, he learned 5. One of his 5, well, no, he learned 8, he mastered 5, so one of his 8 martial arts teaches you to be able to effectively punch from any position. You could make up something like that. Some people have suggested that he's gonna punch him in the dick. Looks like he might, which actually, if that is what he's doing, that would work. I don't know what it is. It's always when someone fucking accidentally hits you in the balls, or when they do it, like, just kind of brush it, just kind of tap it a little. Oh my god. It's like fucking doubling over agony. So if Liu actually punches Nitoku in the dick, that may work out, and grabbing people's testicles actually seems to be a... well, it's happened multiple times, so it's not out of the ballpark of, you know, possibly happening. But we'll see what happens. I think Liu is going to get howevered. This attack is probably not going to work, and then we'll see what happens from there, because I think even if that attack doesn't work, Liu may go in for something else, or Nitoku finishes the fight there. We'll see. Once again, this fight has been absolutely fantastic thus far. It's always the characters that have the least hype behind them that seem to get the best fights in this tournament. I don't know what it is. Well, in-universe hype. The ones that get the least in-universe hype seem to always have the best fights in this tournament. Maybe that pattern will continue? Who knows? Maybe Okubo versus Tarashi will be the best fight. We'll have to find out. So with that, that's all I have to say for this week's review. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss any of my uploads. I do Kengan Omega chapter reviews every week. If you enjoy other series such as Jujutsu Kaisen and Kengan Omega, I do videos in those series as well, including on my backup channel, which I've created because I have 2 strikes on this one, so you should go and subscribe to that. Just in case anything happens to this channel, I have it linked down in the description. If you enjoy discussing Kengan Omega with other people, or you just enjoy the content I produce on this channel, I highly suggest you check out my Discord server. I have a link to that down in the description. Since it's the end of the video, it's time to give a shout out to my wonderful patrons, Archbear, CJ2K, Fuse, Neo, Dijon Redden, Anthony Chavez, Honey Mustard, Zach Rowitz, K-God, Chris Redfield, Scrash23, Moonshadow935, and Rat. Thank you all very much for supporting me on Patreon. I greatly appreciate it. And if you too want to get a shout out at the end of videos or access to some extra content, you can always become a patron as well. There's a link to my Patreon down in the description. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys around. Take care.